Imagine for just a moment, you're walking through an event, a business event at uh, in your market or in your niche. And as you walk into the room where the event is, someone over here stands up and then someone over there stands up. And then all of a sudden, as you're walking through the room, there are about 15 people around you. They all want to get your ideas or your information. Some of them just want to get a picture with you. Some of them want you to be featured in an upcoming podcast with them, or some of them want you to sign a book for them. You are a celebrity in your niche. In today's show, I'm going to show you how you can create that kind of celebrity for yourself, which will result in more income, more impact, and more freedom. EdTalks Live is next. Hey there, welcome to the show. My name is Ed Rush, 5-time #1 best-selling author, your host for the most positive place on the planet for insanely implementable ideas. Today, we're talking about how to become the obvious expert in your niche. It's an area that I've been fascinated with since about 2008. 2008, I saw a young student sitting in the back of an event room. I had just come out of the Marine Corps. I was sitting there. He was sitting over there, and I saw him taking two sets of notes. In one set of notes, he was writing the notes from the event that he was attending. In the next set of notes, he was taking notes on how the event was being run and how the promoter was promoting the things at the event. Well, it turns out that young student in the back in 2008 was a guy named Brendan Bouchard. And I watched Brendan implement some of the techniques that I'm going to be teaching you today, literally coming from absolutely unknown. Brendan didn't have a celebrity parent or any kind of interesting background. And he built a business that has truly been very successful for the last 10 or 12 years simply by launching his own authority. So on today's show, we're going to talk about first the mindset, then the skill set, then the action set for you to get yourself in front of the market that you want to get in front of, to get the kind of attention that you want to get so that you can build the kind of business that you want to do that. Now, before we do that, jump in on the right-hand side, say hello in chat, tell me who you are, where you're from, and what you do. If you're on Facebook, that's in the comments section below. Most of you do this now, and I really appreciate this. I noticed that for the most part, the number of likes and the number of viewers actually starts to match up. So as you're watching, be sure to click the like button and the share button if you can. Certainly appreciate every nice thing that you can say about the show. Let's get to the point where we've got about 1,000 people watching every day. That would be awesome. I just want to say hello to some of my friends who just jumped in and said hello in chat. Barry was here early. You were here at what, 9:16? 110 in Palm Springs. He said they hit 121 on Sunday. I was in Yuma in 2003, 2006, and it was 117. The highest I saw on the temperature was 117. You walk outside, you feel like you're getting hit by a blow dryer. Hey, Jim Butts, good to see you as well. He says, I hope you're enjoying your extra time and get to work on your business. I mean, California's shutting down again. They just shut down all bars, all theaters, and all restaurants for dine-in. We're heading in the opposite direction right now. So now is a great time to dial in your business. And the things that I'm going to be talking about today, the timing couldn't be any more perfect for this right now. Hey, Robert, good to see you as well. I did mention Robert on the previous show. Hopefully you saw it. Just thank you so much for that really nice gift that you sent me. Robert sent me a beautiful book and a nice note in the mail. Pretty cool. So, hey, Diana, welcome. Right, you're writing your book. Mike says, I know the feeling. And exactly, this is actually interesting because this is what Mike was able to do in the HIPAA world. And I'll explain what a niche celebrity means in just a second. Thanks for your encouragement there as well. Hey, Sally, good to see you as well. What's up, Rob? Barry as well. Diana. Hey, what's up? David Zetz is back. He just sent me an email yesterday. David was like homeless in San Diego for a while, which doesn't really mean what it sounds. He was just in between, houses, and now he's back in business. By the way, he knows he doesn't know this quite yet, but David, I'm going to have you on the show. David has a system for generating and closing leads right now on the consulting side that will blow your mind. And the last update I got from him, he got 5 people to sign up out of 5 conversations. Those are $1,000 deals. Pretty good deal for my man David Zetz. What's up? Hey Barry, good. Thank you for the update on your body as well. Hey Tom Bell, the mad scientist marketer. I love it, man. Good to see you. Welcome to the show. Hello, Anita. Welcome back. Good to see you as well. All right. So if you just joined us, and a whole bunch of you did, today we're going to be talking about how to become the obvious expert, to go through the process of learning how to make decisions. And the truth is, when you first learn how to make decisions, it's very, very simple. I mean, for example, my little daughter, little Jojo, 22 months old, when she gets up from her nap, which usually goes midday, maybe 11 to 1, 12 to 2, that kind of range, right in the middle of the day. When she gets up, she usually has a banana. That's like the first thing she does when she gets up. We give her a little banana. She walks around with her little banana. Now, lately, she's been taking the banana peel and throwing it on the floor. Now, you know that you're trying to train a young girl. So what we'll do is walk over and go pick it up. Let's take it over to the trash. And every once in a while, she'll walk over and she'll take it over and put it in the trash. And we cheer and she gets excited. And we're just simply training her that leaving something on the floor is a bad thing and putting something in the trash is a good thing. Because, you know, when you're 22 months old, the world is a very black and white place. It's full of things that are good and full of things that are bad. And there's frankly not much in between. When you're a 4-year-old and you're, you know, thinking about whether you're going to get married or not, the world is a very simple place. I already have a mom. I don't know why I would necessarily need a mom. But you know what? When you grow up, the world simply changes. This week, I read an editorial that was written by a reporter who was saying, in her opinion, that the colleges, Washington and Lee and Washington University, as well as Washington State University, were obligated to change their name. And the reason they were obligated to change their name is because they were named after George Washington, who, according to the person who was writing this, was an evil tyrant who should not be in the history of the United States. The only problem with her opinion article, it was being written in the Washington Post. Now, the irony of that was lost on the author of that particular article, but the truth is we live in a very complicated world with very complex people. And my question sometimes I ask people is, do you want to be judged by all of your actions, good and bad? Because the truth is, if we were to unpack your life or I was to unpack my life, you would find some things that were stand out. Like you would find some things in your life that you were just so proud of. You know, you stood up for somebody or you were unselfish and you helped somebody, but you would find a whole bunch of times in conversations and things you said and did and thought that you would rather not have anyone know about. Well, the truth is, we live in a complicated world. And because we live in a complicated world requires sometimes complex solutions. And my encouragement for you as you engage in the public dialogue right now is to understand that there is no such thing as a simple answer to a question. So for example, I was talking about how California is beginning to close down the entire state. Now, are those decisions politically motivated? Of course they're being politically motivated. Those decisions are made by politicians who are motivated politically. Listen, the average politician isn't thinking, how is this going to affect the income of someone in San Diego? They're thinking, how will this affect my reelection campaign? So of course, those decisions are politically motivated. But to say on the other side, yeah, you know, this virus is just made up. This doesn't, well, no, actually, you know, there's people that actually have died from complications related to this particular virus. I know people who have had something like this, and they said whether they were diagnosed or not, and said it was a really, really bad flu. I'm willing to admit that, you know, we have a really bad flu on our hands. Now, should we have shut the economy down? Should we all go around like drones wearing masks all the time? No, I mean, you know, we should have our personal freedoms. We should be able to make decisions as people. There's a complex decision sitting in the middle of it. So my encouragement to you as you engage with the news of the day is to do the first step is to take a big step back. See, what happens is when people read articles that they disagree with, left, right, middle, other, the initial step is a step forward. It's a step of engagement, getting into the mix. Let's get to fight for this for a second. Initial step, my recommendation is the initial step is a step backwards. Go from about 1,000 feet up to about 30,000 feet and see the course, okay? Look back in history just a little bit and say, have we experienced anything like this before? Look forward in history and see, what is this going to be like here in the future? So for example, one of the biggest discussions people are having right now is about the current election related to, or the November election related to the validity of mail-in ballots. Well, if you look back in history, the validity of elections has consistently been like a revolving door. I mean, it used to be in the United States that the states determined who was eligible for to be allowed to vote and who wasn't. There were, in fact, people of color voting in some northern states as early as the late 1700s. There were, in fact, even women who were voting in certain states as early as the late 1700s. That's because if you were a landowner in certain states, you were qualified to vote. Okay, so when you look back, they used to actually give the ballots, hand the ballots with the person's name already checked, Abraham Lincoln checked already on it. So elections have been a complicated issue throughout the history of our republic. And so therefore, it's still a complicated issue. So take a step back, look back into history, look forward into history, and then engage thoughtfully. But when you engage, my encouragement to you is avoid tribal engagement. In other words, there's the tribal right, there's the tribal left, there's the tribal anarchist, and the tribal thinking is almost always what I call that 4-year-old. I call that kindergarten thinking. Tribal thinking is always they're bad and we're right. And the problem with tribal thinking is this quote that I'm going to put up in front of you from George Orwell. I'm in the middle right now of reading 1984, and this quote says, "Who controls the past controls the future. Who controls the present controls the past." So the quote says, whoever controls the past controls the future. Whoever controls the present controls the past. And it's actually quite a sobering quote when you look at that. Well, the problem, like I said, with binary level tribal thinking is it leads to a condition called the ends justifying the means. There is a term that cults or secret societies will use that goes like this: to the pure, all things are pure. It's actually a Bible quote. To the pure, all things are pure. And the cultists or the secret society folks will use that to say, listen, because we are pure in our motives, therefore our execution, even though flawed, is still pure because we intend to do something good with it. But I can tell you that your actions are as important as your result. The ends indeed do not justify the means. Just look at Germany from 1933 to 1945. So my encouragement to you as we're getting ready to go into COVID round 2, which I predicted, by the way, I predicted this 3 weeks ago. If you look at my Twitter page, I predicted exactly, I could see the writing on the wall. Go look at EdRush Pilot on Twitter, and you can see 3 weeks ago, I put a post up that said exactly this. As we get into this, my encouragement to you is to use your brain, to avoid kindergarten thinking, to avoid tribalism, step back to 30,000 feet, look at the past, look into the future, and make a great decision for the future of your country and for the future of your kids. I will tell you that even though the next few years are going to be difficult, I believe politically, we are coming into a place where we are going to have a lot of peace in America when we come out of this. And just look, I know the 60s were hard. We came into the 70s and 80s. And look, after the 60s, difficulty in the 60s, we got disco. That's all I can say about that. All right, ready to come. So I have a couple of good comments. Let's see. So I know he says, Robert says, yeah, that kid, man, is awesome. Hang on a second. I got a question from you, Rob, too. And I don't think I'm going to be able to get to answer this, but I will. I can get to it sometime later. I finally nailed down what niche. Good. We're going to get to that. We're going to get to that. Actually, this part of it is important, too. Wait till she throws the wallet in the trash. It's true. So Bill said a binary, it's an easier world. And look, people always err on the side of comfort. It's easier if you could just say, you know, everything that Donald Trump does is 3D, 4D chess, and it's amazing. If you could just believe that 100% of the time, it would be a much more comfortable world. Similarly, if you could just believe every time he says something, it's awful and evil, it would be a more comfortable world because it doesn't require you to think. And I've truly given myself the permission to be able to look on a case-by-case, issue-by-issue basis. For example, there was a time, oh man, I think it was 2 years ago, Trump signed into law the First Step Act, which was the biggest prison reform, criminal justice reform bill in our nation's history. One of the biggest steps forward in terms of criminal defense. About 2 weeks later, signed an omnibus spending bill for over $1 trillion. Okay, and in those 2 weeks, I was like, "Good job." Oh no, And so you have to be able to think like that. Let's see, 1918 Spanish flu. Rob says, "I know you're an American through and through, as you know, the former Navy and served through Gulf War in '91. That said, if you had to walk away from the U.S. for a plethora of reasons, where would you go?" Dude, that's a really good question. I used to think Ireland or New Zealand. New Zealand was very business friendly for a while. In fact, New Zealand was paying businesses, seven-figure business plus, they were paying you to move to New Zealand. It's changed. It's changed. It's changed. I don't know the answer to that, but my goal right now is to stick it out here and change it. Because if all the good people leave, only the bad people stay. Yeah, no, I got you, buddy. All right, let's go out to the garden. Says I like that. All right, so let's get cranking onto our topic for today. This is how to become the obvious expert in your niche. If you just joined us, my name is Ed Rush, 5-time #1 best-selling author, your host for the most positive place on the planet for insanely implementable ideas. I'm going to take my notes, get over to the whiteboard, and we're going to start talking about how to create a celebrity inside of your niche. And in fact, Mike Semmel, who's on the show right now, I'm going to use Mike as an example to show you what I mean as a celebrity inside of your niche. So let me jump up on the other screen. All right, hey, welcome back. So we're going to talk about how to become a niche celebrity. Here's what I mean when I talk about a niche celebrity. So for example, Mike Semmel, who has created quite a name for himself in the HIPAA security world and the cybersecurity world, and all of the extended tendrils associated with that. Mike is a frequent flyer on Delta, so when Mike flies from Las Vegas to New York and goes to the airport in Las Vegas, it's not very common for people to come up to Mike and be like, "Hey, Mike, can you sign a copy of your book?" That said, when Mike walks into a conference in his niche with people who are security professionals or folks who are interested in this particular topic on the medical side or on the IT side, he is a person of influence that people want to follow. And therefore, when he goes into events, he gets quite a few opportunities sent his way because he's such a popular person inside of the niche. And in my opinion, that's the kind of celebrity that you want because, at least you can go out to dinner without having people asking for autographs and stuff like that. But it creates a great amount of value and money. And the truth is, you end up getting a lot of deals that come your way, not necessarily because of what you're going to do for somebody, but simply because of your influence in someone's life, okay? The second phrase that I'd like to use purposely is the word perceived, okay? And this is when I say that you want to be perceived as the expert in your market. Now, sometimes when I say perceived, people are like, "Wait a second, Ed, I really am the expert." I know you're the expert in your market, but here's the problem. Right now, people don't perceive you as the expert. And so therefore, what we're trying to do is to give you the perception in their mind that you are who you are. So for example, right now, some of you have seen me do this before, but right now, on a scale of say 1 to 10, if you were to give yourself a grade, actually do this in chat. Of 1 to 10, 1 being the lowest, 10 being the highest, how high is your own perception of celebrity and expertise in your market? You can't give yourself a 1. You can start at 2 if you want to. 10 means everyone in your market knows about you. You're a household name. 1 is not only, a handful of people know about me, and 2 is a handful of people know about me, but I'm getting better. And 3 is I'm getting better, and 4 is getting better. So what I want you to do in chat is to tell me what you believe right now your perceived expertise or celebrity is in your market. Now, the truth is, I've worked now with over 450, I think the count is 452 entrepreneurs, one-on-one in group and mastermind, in one-on-one group and mastermind coaching programs. And most of the people that come to me, so for example, today I've got a coaching day down at the golf club. I'm meeting with an incredible entrepreneur. Some of you have seen her. I just lost the cap for that baby and it rolled away far. Some of you have even seen her on the show. She is an incredible teacher and trainer who has a great gift in a certain marketplace. My guess is in that marketplace, she's probably about a 4. But when it comes to what she can provide and offer in that marketplace, she's probably more like a 7, maybe an 8, okay? On her way to 10. And so my point is, part of creating perception or moving the needle on perception is simply matching up the delta between the way that you're perceived and the way that you actually are, okay? Because the truth is, and you got to own it, right? So here it is. Mike is a 9. This is the one I was just telling you about. Jim says 7, a 9 for investing, a 7. Sally says 2. Diana says 8 in a small market. Gina 3, 9. The success stories are coming in, so I've gone from a 3 to 4. Yes. So David Zetz works in the with basketball referees, similar market to the one that I do. And I'm going to give you in a moment one of the strategies that David executed very, very well in a moment of how he raised the level of his perception inside of the marketplace. One of those was connecting to influencers in the marketplace, and another one was working with people of high value in the marketplace. I'll mention that in just a second. Bill says 1.5. So good. Thank you for the honest answers to that question. Okay, now, so part of it is creating elevating the perception, elevating who you are to how you're perceived to the way that you should be perceived. And then finally, my last assumption here is that you're actually going to do something with it. Okay, so let me give you an example on the negative side. So I started a fishing podcast like 7 years ago. It was a kind of a whim. I was trying to prove some things on the teaching side when it came to podcasts, and I was using a niche that I was interested in anyway. So it was a little bit of a beta test run. Anita says 6. Hey, what's up, Adele? I haven't seen you forever, man. That's Adele Wilson. 8 for media coaching. You've seen Adele on TV as well. Super awesome person. Good to see you. Hey, what's up? Good to see you. Okay, so back to the point. By the way, for those of you who just joined us, this is EdTalks Live. Oh, hang on. This is how to become the obvious expert in your niche or industry. And it's a topic we've covered some of a little bit before, but I wanted to go a little bit deeper on some of the strategies. I'm going to give you those. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different things that you can do. I'm going to go through this quickly, and then I'm going to take your questions. And I know some of you have a training that goes right after this, so I'm going to get you off just in time for that. Okay, so the point is you're going to do something with it. So like when I did the fishing, when I had that fishing market, I actually created celebrity really quickly, and I was getting known fairly quickly. And then all of a sudden I ended up on TV. Like I was on Fox TV in a fishing show. I should show you that clip sometime. And I had this niche celebrity that was people emailing me, and all of a sudden I had people who had big shows and fishing who I was talking to. And I had this celebrity that had built up, but the truth is I had no desire to like go deeper along in that industry. I knew that I could work really hard to make about $10,000 a month in the fishing world, or I could go get like a new client every month for $20,000, and then life would be good. Okay, so my final assumption is, hey, when you get this celebrity, this connection, you're going to actually do something with it. Okay. By the way, speaking of clients, I have a handful of openings for this year's mastermind group and coaching. I've got 2 or 3 coaching spots left open for this summer. So if you're interested in doing some one-on-one coaching or one-on-one plus the mastermind, you let me know. Okay. Email's fine, or edrush.com/coaching is the website. All right. So let's start with just some pure strategies. Okay. So I'm just going to get down to the nitty gritty and just share some tips. And again, I'm going to go for maybe 10 minutes or so, and then I'm going to go back and answer your questions. By the way, for those of you who just joined us, my name is Ed Rush. This is how to become the obvious expert in your niche. It's interesting. I actually was going to write how to become the obvious authority in your niche, because that's actually a better word that people perceive you or come to you as an authority in your niche. The only reason I didn't use that word is right now that word authority is not a very popular word, and I don't want to get mixed up in any of that conversation. Okay, so I'm like, hey, I understand authority. So thank you, Adele. Good to see you as well. Good, thank you, Barry, for the clarification. That's the website if you're interested in looking at coaching. All right, so just a couple tips on how to do that. So tip number 1, connect 1 letter up. All right, you're like, what? Wait, Ed, what does that mean? Here's what I mean by connecting 1 letter up. Let's say inside your industry, there are A-level authorities, B-level authorities, C and D. Okay, and let's use this on the national level just to paint this as clearly as you can see it. All right, so if I was to give this to put it at an A, the people that I would put up at the top, right? I would have people like Tom Hanks. I would have Donald Trump, because look, I'm just naming people who are household names. Okay, somebody like Nancy Pelosi. I would put somebody up here like Steven Spielberg. Put someone up here like Elon Musk. And this is what I would call like full 100% name recognition type of celebrities. Okay, and for most people, you're not going to pick up the phone and be like, "Yo, Elon, what's up, dude? Can you jump on a show with me? You want to go out this weekend?" Something like that. Okay, now B-level celebrities would be people who are well known, but maybe not known like across the board. Okay, so like where Oprah would be up here, somebody who maybe had like a normal like morning talk show would be on the B list. Okay, so maybe this would be somebody like somebody who has a morning show on Fox or CNN or something like that, or somebody who's on some of those morning shows on Fox or CNN. Okay, a C-level person would be a person who's got access to media. They have a following, but they're not at a name recognition level nationally. Okay, so a C-level person would be maybe somebody who has a TV show or a popular podcast, but not everyone knows them, and maybe they're smaller because they work in a specific area. And a D-level person would be somebody who's just starting out. Okay, now your goal as you're moving the needle on your authority and your business is to work up. Okay, what happens quite a bit is Ds oftentimes are interviewing fellow Ds, okay, or connecting with fellow Ds, or getting to know fellow Ds, which is totally fine. The problem is you're not going to be able to move your authority outside of your particular letter until you're starting to move up the ladder just a little bit, okay? So one of the most important things you can do is to begin to get introductions to Cs and Bs. How do you do that? Well, the truth is your fellow Ds all have connections to Cs and Bs. All right, now I didn't say A's, right? Because most of the people, for example, like I've got a connection to Michael Haig, so if I really wanted to get it to Tom Hanks, I could probably connect to Tom Hanks from like 2 to 3 different people. But if I really wanted Tom Hanks, I'd probably have to go through a person to another person, and that would be a ladder climb, okay? And so let's say you're a C or a D. Well, the goal here is to connect, okay, and to begin to become a member of the B tribe by interviewing people, by highlighting people, by bringing people onto guest blogging. There's a whole bunch of tips I'm going to show you in just a second. Okay, so part of your strategy is to connect a letter up. So David Zetz, who's on the show right now, successfully did this. David's in his 20s, by the way, and he works with basketball referees and fitness. David is and really was a basketball referee, okay? And so he knows that market really well. Now, my dad is named Ed Rush, same as me, but in the basketball refereeing niche, my dad is up here, okay? My dad, in that world, there are very few people in that world that have the same kind of name recognition and credibility as my dad does. I'll give you a couple of examples, by the way. There's a guy named Steve Javy, who's actually coming on to one of our shows for our basketball referees tomorrow. Very well known. Joe Crawford, a guy that's very well known in that niche or that industry. And then we could go back in history and name people like Mendy Rudolph, who's passed away, or Sid Borgia, who's like, these are the names in basketball refereeing. I know none of those names make any sense to you, but remember what I said about walking through the airport, in that industry, these are the people. And so David, who came into basketball refereeing in his, 18, 19, or 20, met somebody who was probably actually about a B, okay? And this guy's name was Dave. Now, Dave was a very good and influential referee on the West Coast. He refereed in the biggest conference on the West Coast, and then he went and was a supervisor in one of the biggest conferences on the West Coast. Not full name recognition, everybody wouldn't have known, but in this industry, maybe he was a B. So David shows up as an 18 or 19-year-old with no connections at all, but as a D, because he's just brand new in the world, he connects to this right here, who in turn connects to this. Now, interestingly, this connection here, this is crazy how this works, by the way. This connection from B to A, that connection was what made the connection to me. David Zetz ends up seeing me on some of the webinars with the referees, goes to my website, signs up for my email list, ends up 6 years ago coming to a consultant's training and launching this consulting business, which is now heading to be a six-figure business. Okay, funny how life works, right? We live in a complicated world. Okay, now on his own, it would have been hard as an 18-year-old to do this. Now, my dad's a pretty open guy, so actually it probably would have been a little bit easier. Okay, but this introduction here made it impossible for him not to move in that way. Okay, and that's what I mean about moving the ladder up. Okay, so for example, I just got an introduction to two people who are very, very, very influential in the Christian space. These two people will have access to everyone else. Okay, so it's more than just a phone call or just getting to know somebody. These are deeper relationships. Deeper relationships that you're trying to get. Okay, so tip number one is to connect a ladder up. And by the way, if you just joined us, my name is Ed Rush. This is how to become the obvious expert in your industry or your niche. I want to jump into a couple comments real quick. That is the website if you're interested in doing some coaching. I got some slots open in the next month and a half. Jim said the mastermind and one-on-one coaching with Ed are huge, invaluable. What's up, dude? Thank you, buddy. Gina says, you want to get attention walking through an airport? Stick on a pilot's uniform. Everyone will ask you which is the way to get to the baggage claim or their gate. By the way, Gina, there's a really funny, there's a clip, a sketch that they did on the Man Show. I don't know if you've ever seen this sketch, but the two guys, Jimmy Kimmel and Adam Carolla, basically dressed like pilots and then went into the airport with cameras around them and proceeded to get actually drunk, like for real, full up drunk at the bar, and then watching all the people look at the pilots getting drunk. You're gonna land the plane. No, you're gonna land the plane. Anyway, it's a very funny little sketch. I thought you would like that. Find it if you haven't seen it. David says it works. All right, cool. So anyway, now there's tenacity. I mean, David's a tenacious guy, right? So it's not like one email. I mean, this took years of developing this. Okay, so here's some examples of some ways you can begin to connect up. So if I show you this, here, let me pull this up. This is a really old version of my website. This is like a 2008 version of my website, I think, because I'm sitting on Wayback Machine on 2009. Now, the pictures don't show up because the pictures aren't on my thing anymore, but you can see this is a picture of me with Jack Canfield. I know you can't see the picture. This is me with Bob Newhart. This is me with comedian Yakov Smirnoff. This is me with Gene Simmons from Kiss. This is me with a basketball Hall of Famer. This is another basketball Hall of Famer. This is John Lloyd Young, who starred in Jersey Boys. This is actress Carla Gugino, who played my mom in a movie. This is UFC champion Randy Couture. And I used to have all those pictures sitting up on my website. And the whole goal there was to show people that here's Ed connected to some A's and B's. It's simply designed to elevate your status just a little bit, okay? And there's plenty of ways to do that. And I'm going to get to some of the tools in just a second, okay? So, yeah, it is a funny story. You should find that clip. Now, moving on to number two. By the way, if you just joined us, my name is Ed Rush. This is how to become the obvious expert in your industry. I got just a few minutes left, and then I'm going to jump into your questions, okay? So, number two, and really this whole section, this next section, starting with two, this is a tip, and this is really the tools, okay? So actually, I'm going to start the numbering again. Let's just start this with number one. Here are some strategies on how you can be perceived as the expert in your industry. Okay, you've heard me mention this before, but books are a great place to start, even group books. Sometimes you don't want to write a book, but you get together with somebody who's putting together 20 or 30 authors writing a book. I learned this lesson with this book, How to Turn Clicks into Clients. 2012, this became a #1 best-selling book on Amazon, and it put my business in an authority place inside of the attorney niche. And look, attorneys are like the most skeptical people on planet Earth, okay? They don't believe anything, ever, unless they can feel it with their hands, okay? So to have penetrated that market as successfully as we did, it took a book, and it took a well-designed cover on the book, okay? But it took a book. This book, Warrior, which is my Christian book, has got me a lot of talks in the Christian world. Mary Jo Sherwood, who's one of my coaching members, has a book that she sent me called Doubt No More. and she works with women in the religious world. Dennis Bauer sent me his book called Fumes and a Prayer. You can see that book right there. Positions himself as an expert in the industry as well. So books. I mean, one of the things I'll do, like for example, if I get introduced to somebody who, let's say I'm moving up the ladder, if I get introduced to somebody, usually what I'll do is, you set up a call. Like for example, somebody introduced me to somebody today, I would be talking to them like on Monday. Well, usually what I'll do is get their address, send them a book with a little handwritten note. That way, if they've got the book, they're like, oh wow, check this guy out. Sometimes they'll read a little bit of it, and then there's more to go off of in the conversation. Okay, a couple other options. So for example, to do a show. Now, when I say show, it could be a live stream kind of show. It could be recorded video kind of show, or it could be a podcast, right? The only difference there, of course, was the medium: video, live video, regular video, or interview video. Okay. One of the things I love about shows is you're giving someone something that they want. And remember, you can get anything you want as long as you give someone what they want. And when you bring someone onto your show, you're highlighting them in front of your market for their expertise or for their authority. And oftentimes what that does is it solidifies a relationship. So for example, for those of you who were watching last week, I did a webinar with Joel Weldon. I've known Joel for like 3 or 4 years. And I've known of Joel for way longer than that. But we knew each other at an event. We were each going up on stage and coming back and like quick conversation, connect via text. But it wasn't like a deep relationship. But last week we got together and started promoting this thing. So we're on and off the phone, looking at pages, working on some stuff. And then Joel did his presentation, which blew me away, by the way. And when he did the presentation, he called me and said, hey, what could I do to improve? And I said, first of all, it was like an A presentation. So anything I'm going to tell you is going to make it an A plus. And I gave him some ideas on how to improve. Well, that even deepened our relationship. But it would have never happened if we had just like caught up on the phone. It was just working together on a little project together that really deepened that relationship. And now Joel and I are a lot closer than we were when we were, I'd say we're friends now and allies. And I'd say before we might've been acquaintances. Okay. And that's the benefit of a show. And so one of the things you can do with a podcast or an interview show is to try to find the kind of people that you want to connect with and then ask them, and sometimes you got to ask a couple times. Sometimes you got to ask like a lot more than a couple times. Be a little persistent. Okay. The squeaky wheel does often get the grease when it comes to this stuff. And even me, sometimes reaching out to people, sometimes you get blown off. Okay. Another way is through your website. So I'll pull up really quickly the actual real version of my website, not the 2018 version of my website. You'll see on my website, there's this section down here that says Ed and his books have been featured on, did that pull up? Yeah, here you go at the top. Ed and his books have been featured on CBS, Fox, ABC, NBC. Those logos were initially put on there when I had some press releases that caught fire and ended up at all of the online outlets for all of these places. I've subsequently been on shows on live TV, but this is where I started. And again, your website can position you simply by the way the website looks too. It should look professional. It should brand you as the go-to person in your market or niche. There's an example of how you can do that with your website. Okay. Another one is, for example, with your social media. So I'm going to talk more about this, deeper into this when we get to Top Gun Toolkit for those of you who are enrolled in the course this summer. If you're not, by the way, the price is going up. I launched this at the event at $1,500. I haven't changed the page because we're writing the website this week, actually. So if you want to still get a discount, it's edrush.com/topgun. This is training, which is guaranteed to show you how to make $5,000 per deal or more. In fact, I guarantee you that you're going to make $5,000 in the first 3 months, which is pretty good. Okay. That was as quick of a little heads up that I could give you about that. But let me give you an example of what I'm talking about in terms of social. Back to the page here again. You'll see this is my LinkedIn page, right? So how you present and brand yourself, even on social media, can be really important, okay? Because what ends up happening, I mean, look, even just the articles, the way that the articles and links are presented, because what ends up happening when people come to look at you is, when people are looking at you, they don't just hear from you from their friend. When B is introducing to A, B doesn't just go, oh, oh, dude, you need to meet my friend Phil. He's amazing. And the guy at the top's like, all right, cool. Connect me with Phil. A lot of times what they'll do is they'll Google you. Or if they're on LinkedIn, they'll go over to LinkedIn and they'll type your name in. They'll look through your thing. Or they'll maybe go over to your website, or maybe they'll look at some articles or some videos that you've done, okay? There's a few things that you need. First of all, it should be very consistent across the board. In other words, you shouldn't be talking about one thing way over here and then one thing way over here, and people can't figure out what the difference or the disparity is, okay? There's a reason that I'm not on social media smack talking against the president. There's also a reason that I'm not on social media smack talking against Democrats, because fundamentally my business doesn't require me to take a stand on one side or the other. And there's no reason why I would turn off half of the world simply because I was deciding to make an argument online. Now, there's some things that I do make a big deal about, like, for example, freedoms, free speech, taxation, but that's because I'm talking to entrepreneurs. Every entrepreneur believes the same things when it comes to that, okay? So consistency across the board and professionalism across the board. Quite a few of the people that I work with, when I initially go to their website, one of my clients recently was just like this. When I initially go to their website, you look at the website and you realize, you could have a deal going over here, and the person goes over to your website and actually the deal falls through because they went to your website, okay? And again, I'm gonna go way deeper on all this stuff when we get to Top Gun. Another great resource are press releases, especially when they're syndicated well. I use a service called PR Web. It's a few $100s to really do it right, but to get a press release out and to really get it to move to the places that you want, that really works. It helps with search engine optimization as well. And then the last one I'll mention today, certainly not the last one, but one that I will mention are trade shows. One of the fastest ways to get in front of your market and to get niche celebrity in your market is to attend and potentially have a booth, but ideally speak at a trade show. So let me tell you a little strategy that I learned back in the lawyer days when we were marketing to attorneys. Every bar association, every state bar association, at the very least at the state level, they do a big yearly event. Sometimes they do more events throughout the year, but usually there's like one big yearly event where there's certain cases, thousands of attorneys that'll come in to go to the state bar event for 2 or 3 days. Okay, so what the state bar is trying to do is essentially bring in all their revenue, or a lot of their revenue, at the event, and they charge attendance, but that doesn't cover a lot of it because the venues are very expensive, and the food and coffee and all that stuff. And so what they do is they open up a vendor area. So a lot of times you've seen this probably before, but you've got, like the main hall, and then out here, there's this huge vendor area where there's just a bunch of people standing at tables all over the place, okay? So I was on the phone with the Ohio Bar Association, and I was saying, hey, maybe you want to have us come in and speak at your annual event. And the Ohio Bar is like, well, that would be interesting. Would you be interested potentially in getting a trade show booth? And I'm like, well, how much is a trade show booth? And they said, well, the normal booth is $4,000. Okay, so they're like, all right, it's 4K. It's 4K to sit way the heck over here, all right, and like have a bowl of candy and be like, hey, can I have your business card for some candy? That's the normal thing. Or like the person sitting behind the trade show booth, like typing on their computer with this banner behind them that makes no sense, and it's a waste of $4,000. Now, I'm happy to go to Ohio and spend $4,000 because a single customer signs up front at $15,000 in this business, right? $15K up front and about $1,500 to $2,500 a month. So it's worth it, even if we just get one customer to get a booth. I don't want to just have a booth, okay? So I'm on the phone with the bar association person. Now pay attention to what I'm about to tell you. And I said, that would be fine. The only thing is, we're not really vendors. We're more like authorities and experts. In other words, we teach, we don't sell. And so why don't we do this? How about this? If we got the booth for the full price for $4,000, why don't we do this? Why don't you carve out maybe 45 minutes to an hour for us to give a presentation on our online marketing strategies, and we'll also come up the next day and host one of your panels, okay? And the lady on the phone went, wow, would you do that? That would be great. So think about this for a second. Not only did we get a booth here, we paid the $4,000, but we also got main stage for 45 minutes in front of 1,500 attorneys. And then the next day, we came back and there was a panel of 6 people, right? And we're the moderator. In other words, who's the expert again? Now, during this time, what we did was we brought hundreds of books. And from this stage, all we said is, listen, I brought a couple hundred of these. There's a few thousand attendees, but we brought a couple hundred of these. It's booth 65. The first 50 people get a free signed copy. So I'll meet you there after and literally walk off stage and walk your butt right back to the trade show booth where you can sit there and sign books. Now, who's the perceived expert? Now, who's got a train of 25 or 30 people following them behind? Remember what I said, sometimes this gets created before it actually exists in the real world, okay? And that's a kick-ass strategy right there. I shouldn't have said it that way, but it really is. Now I got to put like a language filter on or something like that. It's just the way I wanted to say it, okay? All right, so just wrapping up real quick, there are some strategies that you can begin to execute on the board. What I'd love to hear from you now in chat, by the way, I've got about 5 minutes to answer your questions. What I'd love to hear from you now in chat is what are the ones that you're implementing now, or what are the ones that you're going to be implementing? And I'm going to jump over onto the other camera. I'm going to answer whatever questions you have, and then we're going to begin to wrap up for today. Okay, got a big show planned for you on Thursday. I had a guest lined up, but I'm working on a new one, so I'll let you know what that is as soon as I get it. So Mike, Mike's done this extremely successfully. I mean, just went from near obscurity into a niche, true niche celebrity. Connect up to leading businesses in your industry to get them to pay for your rise to celebrity, which is actually really true. Mike has a business connection that has put him in front, well, several, but one significant one, one of the biggest suppliers of tools, frankly, to that industry, continues to put Mike out in front of their people, and he gets paid to do it. So that's really good. All right, what I would love to hear from you in chat are the biggest things that you're going to be implementing. What's the biggest strategy that you're going to be implementing? What are the things that you're going that you are potentially currently implementing? And I'd love to hear what that is right there in chat. By the way, in the meantime, if you haven't already done so, the subscribe button's right here. I never asked this. There it is. It's right near that bug that says EdTalks. I never asked this, but if you're not subscribed, please do. And if you are subscribed, there's like a little bell next to that subscribe button. That bell just gives you notifications when there's a show. There are times when I just start broadcasting, even if it's in the middle of the week. Sometimes I want to get something recorded, or I'm throwing one of the weekly flight briefs up, so you'll get some extra stuff, and that gives you notifications through YouTube. So good. Bill Bivens says, "Tell it like it is." I think he's making a comment about my perfunctory use of profanity. I don't think it's really profanity, but close. I did edit all that word. In 21 Day Miracle, I had several times I said, "You bet your ass." And then I edited it out because I was like, I want to be able to give it to my friends to give it to their kids, but I don't want them to be like, so good. Barry's doing what we did yesterday in the Top Gun training, which is to go through your phone contacts and get it dialed in. Dude, Jim says, I have a podcast where I'm interviewing New York Times bestsellers, interviewed DMC from DMC. Dude, that's solid, man. You and I should talk because I some of your folks I should probably interview on this show. Sally said, I spoke on a panel at National Notes Conference. Wait, what? For real? He interviewed DMC from Run DMC. There's two people, right? Run and DMC. I think that's how it works. Jim said you do already use books, dude. He has podcasts in the past and will use, again, lots of live streaming. Good. I like this one a lot, Diana. Zoom meetings and Zoom garden tours. It sounds way better than a Zoom meeting to me, and a book. David Zetz, my man, currently connecting with more authorities in my niche to get teaching slides for off-season virtual camps and gathering success stories from referees. One of the things David's done really well, I meant to say this, while he connected up, is he also got initially some of his first clients were at the highest levels of basketball. Highest levels of NBA basketball are the NBA and Division I in the NCAA. And the truth is, if you can work with somebody at a high level, people below that level will be like, wow, if that person worked with them, then this is for me too. Let me give you an example. I gave this website to you earlier, but let me give it to you as a, let me show you why some of the stuff's on here. This is my mastermind application program. When you get here, you'll see a little video, but then when you also get here, you'll see Brian Tracy, John Asserup, Mike Gaines, Pam Anderson, Bo Easton. The first 5 roughly people on there are there for a reason. The reason why they're there is because I want people to see, oh man, he's worked with Brian Tracy. I got paid twice, 2 separate consulting contracts to work directly with Brian. And so, well, the first one was working with Brian and his team. The second one was coaching directly with Brian. And so if you can do that, it gives people the, oh man, if he could work with him, then he could work with me too. Good. Anita says, I must work on consistency with website and social media. I need a book, but feels overwhelming. Anita, by the way, a really quick way to get going with a book. My first book, Fighter Pilot Performance for Business. This book, I actually wrote every week. I would write an article. It's like 400 or 500 word article. Actually, you just asked it. Good. I'm glad I'm answering your question before you even asked it. I used to write an article every week. I just write like a 400 or 500 page word article, just something really short on one topic. I would usually tell a little story, make a point, wrap it up with some implementation points. And I got done 6 articles. I literally took those articles, put it into a book. I call this my 50-page book jammed into 98 pages because it's like I got extra pages in here and some quotes and stuff. It's not a long book. In fact, I write in the beginning why it's not very long, but a good place to start, just write some articles and then put it into a book. All right, so here's what we covered today. By the way, EdTalks Live, Tuesdays, Thursdays, 10 o'clock Pacific, 1 Eastern. Make sure you're in the house. Come on. You don't want to miss it. And again, like I said, when you click the button below that says subscribe, that will subscribe you. But there's a bell. There's a little bell right next to it. And I didn't realize until recently that gives you notifications. So if you just subscribe, YouTube might show it to you on the right-hand side of your feed if you show up at YouTube. But if you select notifications, it'll give you a notification. That way, if you're there, you can come onto the show. And if you're not, you can catch it later. Okay, so we're going to wrap up today. We covered really from beginning to end some strategies on how to connect to your market and level yourself up, B to C to A, so that you're more of a perceived authority in your market. The only thing you have left to do is to go off and implement and see the results. Let me know how things are going. I will see you on Thursday. And remember, the world is actually a really positive place. 90% of the people right now have a smile on their face. 90% of the people have a positive outlook and an optimistic view of the world, despite what the polls that you've seen. 90% of the people are not the 8% of the people that are arguing on social media. They're good people, okay? So be a good person, engage with the world, have a lot of fun, smile. It will get better, and soon we're all gonna be in charge, okay? So that's gonna be good too. I love you and I like you, and I will talk to you soon. EdTalks Live is out.